Good morning everyone. Good morning students. I am your teacher Jaime Boy Ngag Jr. and for today's video, we're going to discuss a lot of things, lessons, important lessons under readings in Philippine history. Alright, so are you ready to learn? Are you ready to unfold the secrets behind our history, our existence, your ancestors' existence, and about our national heroes? What happened in the past? How is it that Filipino is being colonized? Or who we are today after the colonization, after the wars, after conflicts, and many more. So this is it. We will learn a lot of things about this, and maybe some of these lessons are new to you, or maybe some of these lessons are familiar since you have your Araling Panlipunan, you have your economics, and a lot of subjects in high school which have something to do with the readings in Philippine history. But before we start, I want you to know the objectives of our lesson for today. So read it on the screen. Read it aloud by yourself. Alright, very good. You have a good reading skills. Now, shall we continue learning about history? So this chapter introduces history as a discipline and as a narrative. It presents the definition of history, which transcends the common definition of history as a study of the past. Basically, when we talk about history, the first thing comes in our mind is that history talks about the past, or simply, it is the study of the past. So this chapter also discusses several issues in history that consequently opens up the theoretical aspects of discipline. So as what I've said earlier, there are a lot of issues, problems, which we are going to discuss on this video. Now, the distinction between primary and secondary sources is also discussed in relation to the historical subject matter being studied and the historical methodology employed by historians. Now, in here, we'll be dealing with two kinds of sources, the primary and secondary sources. What is the difference among these two sources? So we're going to unfold this as we go along in this discussion. Ultimately, this chapter also tackles the task of the historian. Of course, when we talk about history, the existence or the presence of historian is there as the arbiter of facts and evidences in making his interpretation, in forming historical narrative. So in here, we will be appreciating the role of the historian. Why we come up with history? It's because of them. The writers, the authors, all in all, they are our historians.
Meanwhile,
now, before we continue, I want you to discuss, or I want to tell it to you that the difference between readings in Philippine history among those history subjects is that this readings in Philippine history focuses on the analysis. In here, we're going to analyze the evidence, the sources which are considered as the source, why we come up with these facts today, why we come up with the idea that these are our national heroes and these are the whereabouts of our national heroes, their initiatives in the past, the conflicts they've been through, and all of the things that have something to do with their life and have something to do with our life today as a Filipino. We are more here on analyzing this problem. We are analyzing because there are some issues that there are some writers, should I say, they said that there are discrepancies daw. Ibig sabihin, may mga mali daw sa mga data. So in here, in these readings in Philippine history, we are going to analyze or unfold whether these things are true. And with the help of the primary and secondary sources, the internal and external facts. So this is quite interesting, isn't it? Are you ready to learn? Are you excited to know our existence, our identity as Filipino? How we began? And same as with the lives of our ancestors in the early days. This is quite exciting, right? So we all know that history has always been known as the study of the past. As what I've said earlier, when we talk about history, basically it is the study of the past. Okay. Now, students of general education often dread the subject for its notoriety in requiring them to memorize dates, places, names, and events from distant areas. So, how do you understand the word dread? So, it refers to you because maybe you are criminology students, you are nursing students, what else? You are a teacher but your major is not history. So this subject is under general education. Now, the dread refers to your apprehension, your expectation with the subject, and it makes it boring, it makes it interesting knowing that you'll be memorizing a lot of dates, places, names, events from the distant eras. Of course, you have to expect that because the subject is history. The word itself, history, tells that you have to familiarize or memorize important dates, names, events, and places. So that makes it notorious, or it's notoriety. So I hope all of you here, even you're not major in history, you're not a teacher, try to appreciate or love or embrace this subject, because as what I've said earlier, it will unfold the secrets behind our existence as Filipino. Because all of us, we don't really know what happened in the past, although we have some discussion about it in elementary and high school, but I guess it's not really that enough, for us to know who we are and what are the happenings in the past, especially in the life of Filipino. Now, this low appreciation of the discipline may be rooted from the shallow understanding of history's relevance to their life and to the respective context. Shallow. So kapag mababaw yung pag-uunawa natin, so of course, dyan na yung nagiging, it makes us feel bored because we don't fully appreciate what history is. But if we have the deep understanding, so ma-appreciate natin ang history, ma-appreciate natin siya, and we can analyze that the past has something to do today. What life we have today, what life we are enjoying today. Like for example, we all know that we've been colonized for 333 years. Can you imagine that? We've been colonized for 333 years. But because of our ancestors, because of our national heroes, we are now enjoying our freedom. We can go anywhere. We have now the freedom of speech. We can wear what we want. And most of all, we are free in terms of education. Way back to the Spanish era, the time that we've been colonized or we were colonized. So we don't have that freedom. So with that example or instance, we can analyze or we can see how lucky we are today because of our national heroes, because of our ancestors who fought for our freedom. So congratulations everybody, because we are now free, we are now democratic. We enjoy liberty from the cruelty of those colonizers. Alright, shall we continue? While the popular definition of history as the study of the past is not wrong, of course, it's not really wrong, it does not give justice to the complexity of the subject and it's important to human civilization. Although the definition is correct, there's nothing wrong with history as the study of the past. But on the second line or the last sentence on this paragraph, it does not give justice to the complexity of the subject and it's important to humans. Ibig sabihin, medyo mababaw yung definition na history is the study of the past. So dapat laliman pa natin. So that's why we come up with this subject, readings in Philippine history, because we want to know more. We want to discuss deeply, We want to know not only the history but also the human civilization. So I guess this what makes this subject different from other history subjects. Now, so do you know where history comes from? Where Filipino derive, or where authors or writer derive the word history? Now, history was derived from the Greek word historia, so historia, which means knowledge acquired through inquiry or investigation. Take note of that. Andyan pa lang, nalaman natin na that's another effect of colonization, because history is not our original words. It is from the Greek word historia, which means knowledge, kaalaman, acquired through inquiry or investigation. It is a knowledge that we acquired through inquiry. When we say inquiry, anong inquiry? It talks about what? Asking question or Socratic method. When we interview, that's inquiry. Di ba? Minsan, you ask your kapitbahay about these things. You are inquiring. You have that inquiry. Or gusto mong malaman magkano yung isang bagay. The effect of this product, yung presyo ng product na to, that's inquiry, because you want to know something, because you want to suffice your curiosity. That's why you inquire or you ask. So that's what historia means. Next is investigation. Have you tried investigating? For example, may tao kang inaakusahan, nakita mo siya na gano'n, may kasama, pero you are not convinced na chismis yung taong yun is aswang. But you're not convinced because you don't see any piece of evidence. Hindi mo ma-prove that this information is factual. So ano gawin mo ngayon? You will investigate. So when you investigate, ano yung ginagawa mo usually? Of course, what? You interview, you go to a place, you ask reliable people, magtatanong ka sa mga taong may alam, may knowledge, or the reliable sources to confirm or affirm na totoo bang aswang si ganito, totoo bang ganyan. So that's something to do with investigation. Okay. So moving on. History as a discipline existed for around 2,400 years and is as old as mathematics and philosophy. So, ibig sabihin, yung history is tumagal na ng 2,400 years. Masyado, ibig sabihin, ang subject na to or this discipline is luma. So, katulad ng mathematics, kasing luma siya ng mathematics na subject, and philosophy. That's why may mga subject pa rin ng philosophy and mathematics. And of course, history. So yan yung mga subject na mga they are quite obsolete, no? Medyo makaluma na, but we authors only revise them, but they are still existing. Andito pa rin sila at tinuturo pa rin sila because they are important subjects, especially history. Now, so this term was then adapted to classical Latin where it acquired new definition. So from Greek na historia, hindi ngayon convinced ang mga Latin, so binago na naman. Binago na naman ang definition ng history. Let's find out what it is now. This term was adapted to classical Latin where it acquired a new definition. Ayan, binago na naman ng mga Latin. Historia, so same historia pa rin sa Latin, no? Historia became known as the account. So this is the new definition according to Latin. Historia became known as the account of the past of a person or of a group of people through written documents and historical evidences. So what have you observed with this new definition? Anong kaibahan ng definition na to sa history as the study of the past, then history as knowledge acquired through inquiry or investigation, and this one? So if you observe, so sa definition na to, it became more specific, more detailed, no? Kasi historia became known as the account of the past of a person or a group of people through written documents and historical evidences. So ngayon, meron na siyang integration ng written documents. Ito na yung mga facts. Dito na mapasok yung mga facts. Mga written documents that will prove that this phenomenon, this news, or this content of history is true, na nangyari talaga. Na nag-exist ba talaga si Magellan? Have you ever asked yourself? Nag-exist ba talaga si Lapu-Lapu? Totoo ba talaga si Rizal? Of course, with the help of these written documents, mapuprove natin or we can affirm or we can validate that this phenomenon, these facts are really facts and they are not hoax. No? Hindi sila hoax. They are really true with the help of these written documents and with the help of this historical evidences. Yan. Kayo ba, alam nyo ba, may mga larawan ba kayo ng mga ninuno nyo? Or do you have any evidence? May mga evidence ba kayo na nakita na totoong ganito, ganyan? Totoo bang yung pamilya inyo is dating mayaman? Or maybe yung mga ninuno nyo ba is sila ba yung mga founder ng inyong place? Of course, you can only even just simply say, for example, sabihin mo, totoo talaga that our ancestors are the founders. So, where's your proof? So, wala kang proof ngayon. So, people may not believe on you because you don't have these written documents to validate that your assertion or the things that you're talking is true or not. So, tutulungan ka lang, di ba? Tulad sa kaso, kailangan ng strong evidence, kailangan ng written documents, or we call it MOVs. So tulad ngayon, we are under accreditation. So kailangan natin ng mga evidence that these things are really true. No? Parang it's a realist perspective. To see is to believe. Now, history becomes an important academic discipline. That's why, up to this day, may mga history pa na subject because it became the most or one of the most important discipline. Kaya nga, bakit naging importante ang history? One more example or one more reason is that kasi marami ng kabataan ngayon which is or who they actually lost their interest in learning history. Maraming kabataan ngayon yung hindi na interesado na mag-learn ng history kasi nga, it's more on memorizing, it's more on dates, kaya naging parte na siya ngayon ng ating curriculum at naging isa sa mahalagang parte ng curriculum for us youth of this generation to appreciate what our national heroes have done in the past, okay? Ano yung mga ginawa nila in the past, for us to appreciate today. Kahit paano, we will have the idea paano nangyari yung mga bagay na to at kung anong meron tayo ngayong kalayaan. It's because of them. That's why, please, you young generation, we young generation, we have to appreciate history by starting appreciating this subject and learning these things na may kinalaman sa buhay nating mga Pilipino, paano nagsimula ang lahat at sino tayo ngayon. Alright, so I hope you appreciate this subject. Next is that it became the historian's duty to write about the lives of important individuals like monarchs, heroes, saints, and nobilities. Of course, kung may history, merong historian, no? And it is the responsibility to write about the lives ng mga santo, ng mga monarchs, and ng mga, most importantly, buhay ng mga hero. Kaya, bakit may mga idea tayo ngayon na about Rizal, about Bonifacio, at tungkol sa mga bayani? It is because of the historian. They wrote it for us. So, our duty is to read it, to understand it, and to appreciate. So, di ba ginawa ito ng mga historian sa atin for us to appreciate? Kasi kapag walang historian, anong mangyayari sa history natin? Magiging parang panaginip na lang ba ang lahat? It would be a beautiful nightmare na lang ba? Paano natin malaman yung mga detalye? That's why we should salute our historian. And we salute them by reading their works and by appreciating what history is. So dapat matuto tayong mag-appreciate. So in this subject, aside from knowing these dates, these important things, I want you also to appreciate our subject, okay? By taking time to read it and to know all the things in our history or in the lives of early Filipino. Now, history was also focused on writing about wars. So hindi lang siya tungkol sa buhay ng mga national hero, ng mga saints, but it also about writing wars. World War II, World War I. So ano ba yung mga wars or mga conflict sa panahon ng Japanese, sa panahon ng Amerikano, sa panahon ng Espanyol. So yun yung mga wars na nangyari. And they are being documented because of our historian. About revolution. Do you know about revolution? Sa panahon ba ng Espanyol, may mga Pilipino bang nagrally? May mga Pilipino bang lumaban? Nagkaroon ba ng revolution? Meron ba? Wala. Do you think? Meron bang revolution dahil ayaw ng mga Pilipino sa pamamalakad ng mga Espanyol? Dahil sa kanilang mga cruelty? So meron. Malalaman natin yan as we go along history or as we go along with readings in Philippine history. Then also about other important breakthroughs or yung mga milestone, no? Ano ba yung mga achievement ng mga Filipino from the past up to the present, no? Especially in terms of sports, pageants, di ba? That's our big breakthrough. That's our milestones. Hindi lang about wars, hindi lang about negative things na nangyari sa mga Pilipino, pero maging sa mga bagay na tanyag tayo sa larangan ng sports, sa larangan ng beauty pageant. We all know and we cannot deny the fact na maraming mga Pilipino ang naging tanyag sa iba't ibang larangan. Hindi lang sa wars, hindi lang sa revolution, but we are also known in terms of talent. So lahat yan is na-document, na isulat yung mga bagay na yun at sila ay napapaloob sa history. Sino yung kaunang Pilipinong nanalo sa boxing? Sino yung kaunang Pilipinong naka-perform sa international arena? Sino yung unang Pilipinong nanalo bilang Miss Universe? So, that's it. That's part of our life and that's our history na dapat nating i-appreciate, basahin at unawain. Okay? Because that's who we are. And, of course, it is thus important to us. So, ito yung mamahalagang tanong sa in learning history. These are the important questions. First, what counts as history? Do you think what counts as history? Ano ba yung binibilang sa history? Ano ba yung mga mahalagang bagay na kinoconsider natin sa history? Siyempre, kaya na sabi ko, we are more on dates, places, people, and events. Ito yung mga mahalagang mga bagay na dapat nating alamin sa history. People, places, what else? Events, and dates, no? Sino, kailan, saan, ano. Those are, I guess that counts history. Now, traditional historians live with the mantra of no document, no history. Of course, yung mga traditional historian natin, they believe with the statement mantra that no document, no history. What does it mean? How can you explain it? When you say no document, no history. That's the mantra of traditional, or that's what traditional historians believe in. So kapag walang dokumento, walang history. Because you cannot prove that this phenomenon exists, or this phenomenon was existing or existed in the past kung walang document, walang MOP, walang modes of verification. So yun yung mga paniniwala ng mga sinaunang mga historian. Pag wala kang mapakita na ebidensya, hindi totoo ang bagay na yan. That's no document, no history. No papers, no history. No evidence, no history. Diba? Parang ganun. Kasi minsan kapag walang document, parang may mga doubts tayo. No? We are having these doubts. May mga pag-ailangan tayo na baka ganito, baka hindi totoo kasi walang ebidensya. Walang dokumento na napapatunay ng bagay na ito is nangyari or totoo. So we have that, or we should have the document to prove our what? Our claims, our assertion, di ba? Kahit gaano ka pa talentado dyan, just like, for instance, no? Kasi kayo, police kayo. Gaano pa sabihin na totoo yung nangyari na siya yung pumatay, pero wala kang evidence, it's still nothing. It's still useless kasi wala kang evidence, wala kang document to prove that these are true or these are not true. Moving on. It means that unless a written document can prove a certain historical event, then it cannot be considered as a historical fact. So kapag walang evidence, that's according to the traditional historian. Pag wala kang may pakita na evidence, so hindi mo masabi na ito ay historical fact. For example, pag walang ipakita na totoo sila Pulapu and Magellan, walang mga nag-verify, walang mga nag-attest, walang mga dokumento, so maybe ngayon, makonsider natin na hindi historical fact ang existence nila Pulapu. But because of document that is being presented, and through this document, na-validate na yung mga claims na yun, yung mga story na yun is naging part of history because they are supported with documents. Kaya kayo, when you say something, or when you want to assert something, dapat meron kayong ebidensya. Meron kayong document to prove your claims na totoo to siya. Or for example, di ba, ngayon nakita, may chismis kang narinig na yung shota mo, may iba. So anong claims mo? Anong ebidensya mo? So dapat meron kang picture or maybe screenshot ng kanilang mga conversation. So that's an example of document to prove that yung narinig mo is totoo or hindi. Kasi kapag wala kang ebidensya, wala kang document, talo ka. Okay. So, lesson learned. You should know how to collect what? Factual evidence, reliable evidence. You know what? We can apply this in our real life situation. Kasi minsan may mga conflict tayo ngayon, ang dami ng scammer, di ba? So ngayon, kung na-scam ka, then paano mabalik yung pera mo pag wala kang ebidensya? Then ngayon mag-file ka ng case. Pataas mo ngayon, Supreme Court or saan man dyan, any justice or sa mga attorney. So your claims will not be validated, or your accusation will not be validated, will not be accepted kung wala kang ebidensya. So you have to have your own document or evidence to prove that your claims or your accusations are true and they are not hoax. Hindi sila chismis lang. Kasi kapag wala kang ebidensya, pwedeng ikaw yung balikan sa kaso. Pwede kang kasuhan ng libel or moral damage. Diba? Kasi nag-falsify ka ng mga bagay-bagay na hindi naman nag-exist because you don't have the evidence. So see, ganyan kalaga yung papel na ginagampanan ng mga document natin. Kaya kung may mga pinanghawakan kayong document, to prove something, keep it. Itago nyo talaga yan siya. Then if possible, for example, may makasulatan kayo, nagbili kayo ng lupa, dapat merong notary, panotarize niya sa attorney para ma-validate na totoo. Kasi minsan, kahit may hinawakan kang ebidensya, wala namang witness, especially hindi dumaan sa legal basis, useless. Useless siya. Because ako personally, I was once a victim of scam. So na-scam ako actually, class. Then, sa case, kung medyo nahirapan ako kasi, although may mga document akong naisulat, yung pera na nakuha niya, but useless kasi hindi ko siya pinadaan sa legal basis. Walang notary ng attorney. So, naging useless yung claims ko na nag-scam niya ako kasi yung ebidensya ko is hindi sapat. Kumbaga, kulang yung aking ebidensya to prove my claims. So, parang ganun, di ba? That's it. So, moving on. But as any other academic discipline, history progressed and opened up to the possibility of valid historical sources, which were not limited to written documents. So, as we go along ngayon, so dahil nag-evolve na ang life natin, pati ang role ng history is nag-evolve na rin. So ngayon, kung kanina with the traditional historian na dapat document lang talaga, written document lang to prove that this phenomenon is yung nangyari na to is totoo. Pero as we go along daw, so nagkaroon na ng mga other options or nagkaroon na ng other source of information or data to prove or to validate a certain things or ideas. So meron tayong like government records. So halimbawa yan ang mga pwede natin gawing mga evidence to prove na totoo yung sinasabi natin. And we have chroniclers, no? Yung mga chroniclers natin. Accounts, yung mga accounts natin, yung mga notes natin. And personal letters, yung mga letters natin, yung mga journal natin na ginagawa. So pwede na siya ngayon maging part ng history. Like with the case of Rizal, di ba? Yung mga letters niya sa kanyang mga loved ones. So that's another example of document na ma-prove na nagkaroon talaga ng love life si Rizal. O yung mga sulat ng mga samahang KKK para may parating sa mga kinaukulan, yung mga cruelty na ginawa sa kanila. So nasaan na yung sulat? So that can be considered as an evidence or something like valid information or valid source. Then, let's go back. For example, ngayon, sinabi mo na may iba yung shota mo. So, ebidensya. For example, may sulat sila. Or yung screenshot. Kasi ngayon, we are more on technologies today. Therefore, wala na masyadong sulat-sulat. So, pwede na yun siya. No? To prove that your claims or assertions are true. Next. Giving premium to written documents essentially invalidates the history of other civilizations that do not keep written records. So, mayroon namang mga part ng history na or mga claims or mga ideas na na-invalidate siya because it was not supported by written documents. Okay? So, ibig sabihin pala, as the historians write the history of our country or other countries, so may mga paniniwala or may mga statements or may mga event na na-invalidate kasi hindi siya supported ng written documents. So, tulad na sinabi ko yan, dapat mayroong ebidensya or written documents. Some were keener on passing their history by word of mouth. Others got their historical documents burned or destroyed in the events of war or colonization. For example, ang halimbawa dito is, for example, sa mga indigenous people, sa mga kapatid natin katutubo, honestly ako, I'm a pure-blooded Tedora, isa akong katutubo. Then, I agree on this. Kasi kami, since ang mga ninuno namin is walang pinag-aralan, so walang mga naisulat na mga pangyayari. So anong meron lang kami is oral literature. Ibig sabihin, pinapasa yung story or history through mouth, no? For example, yung lola ko, yung lola ng lola ko, kinuwento kay lola, then si lola kinuwento sa nanay ko, sa parents ko, then kinuwento sa amin. That's oral literature. So naipasa yung aming mga literatura or yung aming mga kasaysayan sa pamagitan ng bunganga lang, mouth, oral. Dahil yung iba kasi noon nasunog, no? Siguro kung walang mga wars, walang mga conversation, hindi sinunog yung mga tahanan ng mga sinaunang Pilipino, I guess maraming mga ebidensya ang naikalap natin. Marami ngayon na mga written documents na magpapatunay na totoo yung mga colonization, na totoo yung mga ginawang pagmamalupit sa ating mga Pilipino. Pero yung iba kasi dito is nasunog na dahil sa mga kaguluhan. At yung iba naman sinira. Siyempre sinira ng mga colonizer. Kasi magiging ebidensya pa yun. Kaya yung nangyayari ngayon, most of the time, especially yung mga lolo at lolo ng lolo natin, so oral literature na lang, kinukwento na lang sa atin kung ano yung nangyari hanggang sa naipasa na sa mga susunod na generation at tayo na naman ikwento natin sa anak natin hanggang sa susunod na generations na naman. So ganun yung nangyayari yung oral literature or passing of history through oral or through mouth. Restricting historical evidence as exclusively written is also discrimination against other social classes who are not recorded in paper. Kasi alam nyo, especially sa panahon ng mga Kastila, maraming magagaling na writers tayong mga Pilipino, pero iilan lang nakapagsulat. Bakit? Because they were being restricted. Ibig sabihin, pinagbawalan silang magsulat ng kanilang mga hinaing, na they were being restricted of documenting kung ano yung nangyari in the past. So, kadahilanan ng mga cruelty ng mga Espanyol. Kaya nagkaroon ng mga ganong mga restriction. Then nobilities, monarchs, the elite, and even the middle class would have their birth, education, marriage, and death as matters of government and historical record. Okay? So yung mga nobilities, yung mga matataas na tao, yung mga elite, yung mga monarchs, yung mga saints natin, yung mga heroes is yung kanilang live birth, yung kanilang edukasyon, yung kanilang marriage, yung kanilang death certificate, yun ay isang halimbawa ng mga document, no, na magiging part ng ating history. Like, kailan namatay si Rizal? So, supported by death certificate. Kailan pinanganak si Rizal? Kaya, yung birth or live birth niya. Saan nag-aral si Rizal? Saang school or saang paaralan nagtungo si Rizal? Diba, alam natin si Rizal is nagtungo sa iba't ibang bansa. So, mapuprove siya ngayon through this education, then through his journey, through the records, through this factual evidence. Like, another example is marriage. Sino ang naging unang asawa ni Rizal? At sino yung huli? Sino man ang karelasyon ni Rizal? So, that's part of our history. So, that's under marriage. Now, but what of peasant families or indigenous groups who were not given much thought about being registered to government records? So ito yung problema. Kasi yung mga marriage contract na yun, yung mga marriage certificate na yun, mga live birth, sa unang panahon is, ang meron lang noon is yung mga elite, yung mga taong matataas ang antas sa lipunan, yung mga mayayaman, yung mga edukado. So ang tanong ngayon, paano pala yung mga mababang uri? Paano pala yung mga katulad naming mga katutubo? Kaya we cannot deny the fact na ngayon, Maraming tao ang wala, hindi alam yung apelyido, hindi alam yung birthday. Actually kami, most of the IPs is gina-estimate na lang yung kanilang edad because of these facts na they were not being registered. Hindi sila na-rehistro dahil sa kulangan sa pera, edukasyon, at sila ay mga simpleng mamayan lamang sa sinaunang panahon. So yun ang yung problema. Pero ngayon, we should thank our government because it's quite okay na ngayon kasi nga mahirap ka man mayaman, you are required to register in PSA, di ba? Kaya may mga survey, may mga census. So yan, may mga census tayo. At lahat na ngayon is, what is good is, lahat na ngayon is nakakaroon na ng quality education. Education for all. Mayaman ka man o mahirap, lahat ay may edukasyon. So, but way back in the early time, so walang ganun. Kaya isa rin yun sa mga rason kung bakit nagkaroon ng mga revolusyon, no? Dahil sa kakulangan or hindi pantay-pantay na kalayaan ng mga Pilipino. Kasi dapat yung mga matataas lang tao, yung mga mayaman na tao, yung nabibigyan ng atensyon. Yung mga mababang uri, wala. No? Okay. Now, does the absence of written documents about them mean that they were people of no history or past? Did they even exist? Paano ba yun? Pag walang history, pag walang mga document, mapuprove ba yun na tao ba talaga sila ng Pilipinas, kami, dahil wala kaming library? Diba? That's in the first, kasi nga, way back in the mantra of traditional historian, no document, no history. So, paano ngayon pag walang library yung mga IP? Yung mga taong nasa mababang antas. So, ang tanong ngayon, are they part of the history? Or, are they part of the country dahil wala silang maipakita na dokumento dahil TNT sila? Well, we will answer all the questions as we go along. Now, this loophole was recognized by historians who started using other kinds of historical sources which not be in written for but were just as valid. So ito na ngayon, dahil nga yung katanungan kanina na mai-consider ba natin yung mga tao na taga-Pilipinas dahil wala silang library, especially yung mga IP. So as we go along ngayon, nakaisip ang mga historian na dapat i-upgrade. So nakaisip sila ng mga other forms of evidence na dapat hindi lang written documents. Kasi kapag written documents lang yung pag-usapan, paano yung mga taong walang library? Paano yung mga taong nasa mababang antas ng lipunan na sa unang panahon is hindi sila nagkaroon ng mga marriage contract, ng mga library? So paano sila ngayon? So yun yung nakitang problema ng mga historian. Kaya as we go along, medyo nag-upgrade na siya. Medyo may mga other ways na to affirm na siya ay tao, siya ay nag-exist, siya ay membro ng lipunan na ito kahit walang library. So let's find out. A few of these examples are oral traditions in forms of epics and songs and started collaborate artifacts, architecture, and memory. So ngayon, medyo na-upgrade na, nag-evolve na yung pagkalap ng mga ebidensya. Hindi na siya ngayon nakafocus sa written documents lamang. Pero, sinali ng mga historian ngayon ang oral literature. So, yung kwento, no? Yung kwento ngayon is na-validate na siya. Okay. And another thing is, yung mga epiko, yung mga kwentong bayan, yung mga awit, yung mga sinaunang awit, yung mga tutubong awit. Dahil nga walang mga written documents, so, pwede nang gamitin yung mga awit, yung mga epiko ng mga katutubo para i-prove yung kanilang pagkakilanlan or yung kanilang claims tungkol sa kanilang sinaunang tao, yung kanilang mga ancestor. Kasi nga, they're not member of this elite people. So, binabalidate na ngayon ng mga historian yung kanilang kwento, oral literature nila. Okay. Para nga makonsider yung kanilang history, yung kasaysayan nila. Then, artifacts. Ano yung alam yung artifacts? Ito yung mga mga sinaunang kagamitan ng mga Pilipino. Kaya, di ba? sa mga museum, pag pupunta kayo ng museum, ang daming mga artifacts doon, no? Na that will prove that these claims or this phenomenon really happened in the past. Kasi kapag wala ka ng written documents, wala ka pang artifacts, so wala, di ba? Then, architecture, yung intramuros, yung mga sinaunang hospital, ano pa, yung mga bahay na bato sa Batanes, they are architecture at marami pa. Actually, maraming mga architecture sa Pilipinas na nadala sila ng mga Espanyol. No? Marami. Especially if we travel around the Philippines, ma-discover natin yung mga place na may mga naiwan pang bakas ng mga pananakop sa pamamagitan ng architecture, yung mga building structure na naiwan ng mga Espanyol at ng iba pang mga mananakop. So they are part of, or they can be considered as evidence that will prove na totoong merong mga pananakop sa unang panahon sa pamamagitan ng mga bagay-bagay tulad ng artifacts, architecture, awitin, mga epiko, and many more. Kasi nga, dahil hindi na siya nakasenter lang sa written documents. So, hindi lang siya about written documents, pero pag may pakita kang evidence, artifacts, yung sinaunang tabas ng inyong mga ninuno, so pwede yun. Ano pa ba? Mga sinaunang pinggan na ginamit pa ng mga forefathers nyo, so pwede na yan siya ngayon. Pwede nyo pa-validate, then base doon, i-analyze ngayon ng mga historian kung ilang taon na ba, si ganito, di ba? Minsan nga yung mga fossils, di ba, yung mga buto ng tao, minsan nalalaman ng mga historian or kung sino mang concerned people na pag-aralan niyo siya para malaman kung ilang taon na yung tao na yun at sa anong era ba siya nabuhay. So parang gano'n. Hindi na lang siya written documents. So nagiging, nag-evolve na, nag-spread na. Okay. Now, history thus become more inclusive and started collaborating with other disciplines as its auxiliary discipline. So ngayon, as we go along, ang history ngayon is marami naging mga partner ng mga discipline. Nag-partner siya sa science, sa mathematics, para i-broaden pa yung history. So, okay. With the aid of archaeologists, historians can use artifacts from a bygone era. So, mga sinunang tao na ito, no? Yung mga artifacts. To study ancient civilization. Ito na yung sinabi ko kanina. That were formerly ignored in history because of lack of documents. So dahil kulang sa written documents ngayon, so sa tulong ng mga archaeologists, sila yung nag-a-analyze, sila yung pinag-aralan nila yung mga artifacts na naiwan para ma-interpret or magawa ng kasaysayan ang isang bagay o ang mga Pilipino sa pamamagitan ng artifacts lamang. Dahil wala nang written documents because of war and lack of education. It formerly ignored history because of lack. Okay. Linguists, so pati yung mga linguists, sila yung mga dalubhasa sa pag-aaral sa mga pananalita, wika, many more. Sila yung mga linguists. Linguists can also be helpful in tracing historical evolutions, past connections among different groups. So ngayon, ang mga sabi ko kanina, yung history is na-broaden na siya. Marami ng mga discipline experts yung kinuha nila para pag-aralan ito. Kaya andun yung mga archaeologists and linguists para kumbaga mapalawak pa yung pag-aaral ng history. So ano yung ginagawang papel ng mga linguists? Sila is yung they trace historical influence by studying language and the changes that it has undergone. So yung mga lingwahe ng mga sinunang people, yung mga symbols, minsan, di ba minsan may mga, yung alibata, pag-aaral ng alibata, that's under linguists. Di ba minsan sa mga kuweba, may mga symbols yung nakikita, di ba? So isa yan sa pinag-aralan ng mga linguists to interpret this symbol. Ano bang ibig sabihin nito? Sa anong era ba ito nangyari? Sinong gumawa nito? Parang gano'n. Even scientists, ang mga scientists nagkaroon na rin ng mahalagang papel sa pag-aaral ng history. Like biologists and biochemists can help with the study of the past through analyzing genetic and DNA patterns of human society. So ano yung naging papel ng mga biologists and biochemists? They study history through analyzing genetic and DNA patterns of human society. Sa pamamagitan ng pagkuha ng DNA ngayon, nalalaman yung pakilanlan ng isang buto or ng isang tao. Okay? So pamamagitan ng pagkuha ng buhok or buto or anumang parte ng tao na yan or mga bones na yan na naiwan or anumang uri ng mga artifacts na naiwan is pag-aralan yan ngayon para makakome up sa isang idea, na ganito pala, ilang taon na bang nakalipas, ilang taon na bang tao na to, yung namatay na to, ang tao na to, ang bangka or ang labi na to ba is kasali ba sa panahon ng Espanyol or American? So, yun, naging broad na yung history ngayon. Andyan na yung pag-aaral ng archaeologist, linguist, biochemist, and biologist, even scientist. So, di ba? Marami na naging parte ng history. Ganun kalawak at kahalaga yung pag-aaral ng history. So, maraming kinuha ng mga dalubhasa, mga expert para ma-prove or masabi na totoo talaga ito at para makakala pa ng mga ebidensya na mapapatunay or na magsasabi or maglalahad tungkol sa pagkakilanlan or identity ng isang tao or ng isang organisasyon, ng isang bansa o ng isang tribo. So, any questions? So please check the description or the comments down para malaman niyo yung activity na gagawin niyo, okay? So I hope you'll learn something from this topic on the definition and subject matter of history. If you have questions, just comment down. If there's none, then it's good for you. So, thank you for watching. Don't ever forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel for you to be updated to all the discussions that I'll be doing on my next video. Goodbye everyone and God bless. See you on the next video. Bye!